Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Dr. Clinton Ohlers with us, ladies and gentlemen. The incredible interview continues. We're talking about SafeBlood.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is this. The core mission of SafeBlood is clear. If you cannot choose your donor, you do not have informed consent. Okay, that's the problem, is how do people choose SafeBlood? And that's what the organization is about. That's what they're promoting. Believe it or not, SafeBlood already operates in over 53 countries. That's actually comforting, ladies and gentlemen. But it's still expensive. It's still hard to do, and you still get all kinds of pushback from clowns everywhere. RFK and Donald Trump together with a single word could change that and make SafeBlood appropriate, affordable, scalable. I mean, they could literally change the game if they wanted to. Doctor, what is RFK saying about this? Anything at all?
Well, this is really interesting, and this is breaking news. So, but what I'll say right now is that in terms of availability of what we do, it really depends by region. Okay, so the Southeast is really good. California, surprisingly, is really good. Texas is mixed. I'm going to talk about Texas in a second. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, that's really tough. I mean, we know of people there who, where a parent was disallowed from giving blood to their own child. This is customary in pediatric surgeries. They had to go all the way to Pennsylvania to use a hospital there that would comply. Pennsylvania has been a really good state. And so in terms of allowing these directed donations where you direct who your donor is going to be. So it's a very important freedom to protect. And the breaking news here is that Marty Bowden yesterday tweeted out in response to a family in Texas where the husband needs open heart surgery and is being denied blood from his wife, who's a universal donor. He's being denied blood from family members who are all lined up, who are matches. He's even being denied giving his own blood. Now we have hopefully come up with a solution for them.
What are their justifications for this, doctor? I don't understand it. What do they claim is the reason?
Well, this is what Mary Bowden brought out. The justification apparently is a statement from October of 2023 by the FDA stating that directed donation should only be done when, unquote, medically necessary, and then stating that they should not be done for reasons of, say, concerns over the mRNA vaccine status of the individual who's donating. So this came out during the Biden administration's FDA. And now we have a different team in charge, and this needs to change, because what I believe is happening is that this is giving permission to hospitals and blood banks in different parts of the country to deny what has been up till now an uncontested, uncontroversial human right. Just a normal freedom.
And they claim by that very nature that it's safe and effective without evidence is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. And then they basically take away people's agency where you don't have the choice, right? Where you don't have the opportunity to receive safe blood or to receive. I mean, why wouldn't you, have the blood of your family, of your wife, of perfectly good donors that could increase safety? I mean, it's even proven that in people's bloods, there's protection from all kind of things, where you live, your environment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you get blood from other places and stuff like that, you lose some of that local reality that, the blood adapts to environments and things like that. It's very complex, but all I'm telling you is there's something to that too that they're avoiding on this altar of never admitting there's ever a problem with the vaccines. And that's where RFK needs to stand up, and he needs to do it now. Has anybody talked to him, or has he made any statements?
I'm going to actually be reaching out to a contact later today regarding this. So, this is very fresh. And so, someone I know and is a mutual contact has basically direct access to him. Talk about Marty Makary also in a minute, because he's the perfect FDA commissioner for this. But I just want to get into a little bit to the level of deception that was going on here in 2023. I mean, they quote a study in there that says, studies suggest directed donations carry greater risk of transmitting infectious diseases than the general blood supply. That's by Dorsey et al. And now let me talk to you about this because it's really important for your readers to have, I think, this window into the kind of deception that's been occurring. Okay, what that study shows, it looked at basically the donor groups who were giving blood versus people who were asked to give blood, say to a family member, relative, friend, that kind of thing. Well, when you do that, and they found a higher rate of, say, HIV and versions of hepatitis and so forth among the directed donors. Oh no, right? Directed donors are dangerous. That's the claim the FDA is making. Okay, this is so fallacious, and here's why. How did they find out that these people had these issues? It was because they were screening the blood in order to take them as donors. It was a public health benefit that this happened because you've got lots of people running around who don't know that they have certain diseases. Now, when you've got the blood supply is already pre-screened. Obviously, when you take a group that's been pre-screened versus a group that hasn't been pre-screened, you're going to screen out some problem individuals. That's why you screen. Okay. And then they found, oh my gosh, I have HIV. I didn't know this. I have hepatitis B. I didn't know this. And they deal with that. So it was a very valuable thing that they were brought in the first place. You know, most people who do directed donations are first-time donors into the system. And so they have to go through that natural screening process. But to take that natural screening process and then use it as evidence to say that this is more risky and more dangerous is misinformation of the worst order. I mean, this is right up there with that "it's for goats and pigs and cows, y'all" tweet that the FDA put out to get people from taking ivermectin, which would have saved their lives.
Well, okay, ivermectin actually saved my life, so they can say what they want. Me and old Joe Rogan can just take them on and say, you guys are clowns. Absolutely. Call it horse poop, call it what you want. I'm alive, baby. Right? It
got me over 6 weeks of long COVID, and it snapped my dad out of the Delta virus, which was really bad. I was worried for him. Yeah, ivermectin was fantastic stuff. And the FDA suppressed it with misinformation. That's the FDA under Biden. Now, you've got new sheriffs in town.
People should go to prison, though, for that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. These are crimes against humanity. Yeah, this is not, this was a mistake. Okay, these were crimes against humanity. There needs to be some accountability for that. Now, the person we have in charge of the FDA now is Marty Makary. Let's see if you can see his book here, Blind Spots. And chapter 6 of this book is on, guess what? The 1980s crisis over HIV that I just referred to. And he laid out, and I tell you, this is history repeating itself. We talk about history not repeating, but rhyming. Well, let me tell you, this is as close to repeating as you get. And there it was the same thing. There it was the exact same thing that you had in Makary's blind spots here. In the 1980s, what you had was this delay, right, where early doctors understood the disease, understood the blood supply, and said, we want to be careful about what we do with our patients. We don't want to overprescribe transfusions and things because people could be harmed. And they, just like today, they were suppressed. They were disciplined. They were not allowed to speak, right?
And Fauci was at the helm then, repeating history just like he was this time for Coco, right?
Yeah. Talk about that, yeah. Now, so I think Makary's and it took, like I said, about 8 years. And what happened then? What were the kinds of casualties in between the time that suppressing doctors who knew the truth until the time that you were actually listening to them? Well, about 8 years passed, and they got their, protections in place. One of the protections, by the way, is directed donations, that people could easily access blood from people they knew and trusted and knew were healthy. Okay, that was one of the fixes that's now being suppressed. Okay, now but the other thing is that, as James Thorpe pointed out, a generation of hemophiliacs, something like 60,000 hemophiliacs died because of this. And the Arthur Ashe Stadium where we just had the US Open tennis tournament in New York, it's named after Arthur Ashe. He was in this window after the doctors were warning, but the safety measures weren't put in place. He got a blood transfusion for a hip surgery. And as a result, he contracted AIDS and died. Okay. So these casualties are terrible. It needs change. And I think We have no one better at the FDA right now than Marty Makary to recognize that this kind of misinformation about the blood supply and the consequences it's having in medical institutions in different parts of the country absolutely has to change. It's a travesty.
Lance?
Look, there's no surprise to me about any of this. We've heard it from so many different experts. And I just really wonder, what are they going to do about it? We keep asking the administration to really investigate what happened here. And it's not happening. Anthony Fauci's still walking around, and he's fabulously wealthy now. I think last I looked, he has a net worth of somewhere between $25 and $35 million. And he didn't have that when it started. And I think enough is enough. Transparency, accountability, and consequences. That's what I voted for, Sam.
Amen. When we get back, we'll talk about case 3. We'll talk about a baby. They never have blood clots, do they? They do now.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Scott Bradley here. Most Americans are painfully aware that the nation is on the wrong track and in dire straits. Unfortunately, most political pundits only nibble around the edges when they claim to address the issues. Even worse, many of the so-called solutions are simply rewarmed servings of what got us into the mess we currently face. And the politicians think we're so gullible and naive that we'll buy their lies that they have reformed, and now understand where they led us astray. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that they simply wish to continue to hold power. The solution to America's challenges is found in returning to the timeless principles found in the United States Constitution. My book and lecture series will reawaken in Americans an understanding and love of the principles which made this nation the freest, most prosperous, happiest, and most respected nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com and order my book and lectures to begin the restoration of this great nation.
Welcome back to Liberty RoundTable Live. I don't ever remember hearing about babies getting blood clots. Historically, I don't even know if it's ever happened. You look at what's going on here, and we're here with Dr. Ohlers. We're talking about, is our blood supply safe for the unvaccinated? We're talking about the discriminatory practices and maybe even the accusations of being conspiracy theorists, that somehow we're not supposed to believe that there are any consequences for the COVID vaccine, and yet on social media, it's everywhere. And we're still not getting the coverage we should be. Babies, Sam, have you ever heard of a baby getting heart disease or a blood clot in your entire lifetime prior to post-COVID vaccine era?
And I'm not saying it's never happened, but it would be so rare, so unexpected, so unique, and explained by something else, meaning if the heart or something else had a problem or whatever, it wouldn't have the same characteristics, even if it was so.
So, Dr. Ohlers, let's talk about baby Alex. This is horrendous, the impact of this. And I can't imagine how many other babies have been impacted by this. But you've got some specific examples here that I think when the audience hears this, they're going to have the same reaction I did, which I was appalled to realize this had actually occurred to new family members.
Yeah, absolutely. So baby Alex was a newborn in Washington State and born with a congenital heart defect, which fortunately had a 95% chance of being completely corrected through surgery. And this is, again, early on in the rollout of the vaccines. You see him there in the hospital bed. And the parents were concerned that here you have a brand new baby, immune system not yet able to withstand very much, and we're going to put blood in him that might contain this component vaccine. So they went and arranged a directed donation for their baby for this surgery. Now, the thing is that surgery had to be preceded by a preliminary surgery. And, although they took this precaution for the main surgery, paid extra money, when they did the preliminary surgery without telling the parents, the doctor decided to just top up the baby's blood levels. And in doing so, took blood off the shelf that we can be now really certain that was from an mRNA vaccinated donor with dangerous components in that blood because of what followed, which was tragic. And this was our first, I think, truly smoking gun case that we had, because here's baby had no other exposure to anything else. And you had a blood clot that formed, and this blood clot ran all the way from the knee to the heart. It developed within hours of the transfusion. It was completely unresponsive to the usual types of thinners and they use to break down blood clots. And it appears to have been that kind of clot that we only began to see after the rollout of the vaccine, which was those long fibrinogen clots, the rubbery Calamari clots that they call them, that Tav Haviland has done so much along with Ryan Cole to make the public aware of. Okay, that is what killed this baby. So, I mean, that is unique. And if you ask, well, why did it go from the knee to the heart? Why did it start there? That is literally where the transfusion site was. They often transfuse a baby from the knee to get that blood in. So
that is just so horrible, that story. And at the end of the day, here's parents that tried to preemptively do the right thing. They tried to protect their baby like any parent would. And now the doctor makes a decision without maybe looking at the full set of records that these parents had already paid for, an expense for a transfusion that would protect their baby. And he makes the decision to top the baby up. I hate the terminology now. I feel like we're dealing with an automobile, Sam.
Yeah.
Top the baby off with some vaccinated blood there. And, the next question that I have is this: what if you take a vaccinated person and then you give them this blood too? Their bodies might overload with too much spike protein in those cases, right, doctor?
Well, this is actually something very important. SafeBlood is the only organization that exists that also provides blood for mRNA vaccinated people. Like, my parents had the vaccine. It seemed at the time like the benefits weighed the risks. I have a friend who got it last December, so technically 2 Decembers ago, about just over a year ago. He got the vaccine. I didn't know him then, and he was clearly not aware. He got it to take a trip to Africa. He's a associate pastor. He's going to do missions in Africa. He's African American himself. And you need the yellow fever vaccine. He got that, and they said, you want COVID too? He said, well, why not? Well, in 6 days, his hip started to lock up, and he then spent 2 weeks in the hospital with transverse myelitis, not knowing if he'd walk again. When I met him, I heard this story, went back, checked my research, came back to him next time, and I said, look, I don't know if you had the vaccine. Of course, I knew that he almost certainly had. But you need to know that the leading cause for transverse myelitis right now, based on these studies of millions of people, is the vaccine at a rate of 3 to 1, because 300% more cases of transverse myelitis among people who have been vaccinated than not. So now we know the vaccine is a cause of transverse myelitis, and of course, myocarditis even more, and so on and so forth. So I warned him about that, and he said, oh my gosh, I knew it was that vaccine. The yellow fever that I took or the COVID vaccine, it had to be one of them, because right after I did that, I couldn't walk, and he didn't. Fortunately, he walks now. He's fine. He recovered, but that was a horrible experience. And that's definitely somebody who not only would not want to get boosted, but if he needs to go in for a blood transfusion, he knows that his body was, say, particularly susceptible. Why don't know? Did he get a particularly bad lot, or is he particularly susceptible? These are questions we don't know, but we know his risk isn't zero, so he'd want safe blood.
And we know these questions aren't something we want to find out, at least on his account. I mean, we'll find out due to reality, but we don't want to give him any exposure either. And that's why these rights are so important. And in a little bit, we'll talk legislatively about this. How do we preserve this right? How do we even codify it as a right? Where's all the women that want to murder their babies and claim it's their body? Where are they claiming it's our bodies now? They seem to be strangely silent, Lance.
Well, I mean, does that surprise you, the silence, when they don't have an answer that makes any? We talk about common sense regularly on this show and on my own show. I mean, of course, what are they going to say to this? The facts are coming out. The proof is there. We know these people are injured. We know that there's many things that have happened to them from receiving that jab. That, look, I'm still concerned about the shedding, Sam. I walk around now wondering, if somebody decides to go in and get a new round of boosters, because, the liberals on TikTok love to promote how they just got their booster and they're still alive. Am I going to be dealing with that for the rest of my life, that I have to be concerned everybody I come in contact? Dr. Ohlers, what do you think of that? Is that a real possibility that we're going to have to be concerned for our own safety?
Well, I'm concerned about the self-replicating mRNA vaccines that have now been okayed in the UK, European Union, India, Japan, that appear to be even more harmful than the original mRNA vaccine. But you wonder what self-replicating signifies, because if the mRNA can get ejected from the body and then onto other people's skins and absorbed, just in the same way that the shedding was. I mean, I don't want to create alarm here. I'm saying this is a question I don't know the answer to, but we do know that spike protein was being shed. The body casts this stuff off in its own exosomes, which is like its own sort of nanolipid particles, and that would get exhaled and come off on the skin. And this is why we were seeing such strange phenomenon among women going into menstruation and things like that after having been around vaccinated women and friends. Through a great number of things that did happen through shedding. And we know that they've been experimenting with, and they've published openly about creating vaccines that travel from person to person. So you don't have to vaccinate the whole population. The population spreads the vaccine itself. And so if you did that with an mRNA type platform, right, where you have this kind of death toll and injury, right, it would be catastrophic.
And let me jump in here, Sam.
People's agency over that for sure by doing that, Lance.
And and what about super doctor, the best in the world, Bill Gates? The health expert to all. What about his plan? He wants to use mosquitoes. He wants to get our food to inoculate us. When does this become a violation of your personal choices? Why is Bill Gates allowed, because of his financial status, to now become a health expert with no education? And Dr. Ohlers, how dangerous is that? Because here's a guy that thinks our food should be doing it to us for those the vax deniers. And I've even heard rumors many times now that he didn't get any of his children vaccinated because he didn't trust it. But he wants us to, worry about whether or not an apple is covered with a peel or some other product, and we're going to self-inoculate without knowing it.
Well, this is really part of this much bigger problem that our country faced. And it really is akin to, this, what Matthias Desmond has written about, mass formation, which I think all of us prefer to call mass formation psychosis, because psychosis really describes it, where a whole society goes off the rails in the wrong direction in a virtually suicidal way. And it happens, why does it happen? Well, one of the big reasons is because of misplaced trust. And who's been put into business of misplaced trust, right? So you have people like Pierre Corey, Mary Talley Bowden, Peter McCullough, all of these fantastic doctors sounding the alarm. They're labeled as misinformation characters. But somebody like Bill Gates, without a college education as an expert, he didn't deserve the trust he had in using it.
Dr. R. Clinton Ohlers with us, ladies and gentlemen. When we get back, I want to talk about choice, how we preserve our agency. I want to talk about how this whole thing got started. It's one thing to do a lot of research. It's another thing to start SafeBlood, safeblood.com. The question is, what does it do? How does it work? We want success stories, folks. We don't want to just be all negative, right? We'll do it all in seconds. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. It is slaughter on a mass scale in Iran. It shows no signs of slowing down. Iran's judiciary chief suggests fast trials and the speedy execution of those who have been arrested for defying the ruling theocracy.
This comes despite warnings from President Trump. The human rights activist news agency says more than 2,500 people have died from a bloody crackdown. Mr. Trump has warned Iran of possible U.S. military action over the killings. Iran is preparing for the mass funeral of 100 security force members killed in the demonstration.
Correspondent Andrew Stewart says Elon Musk's Starlink is offering free access in Iran, helping people to get around the government's internet blackout. The top diplomats of Denmark and Greenland are meeting today with Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio at the White House. The meeting comes as President Trump remains rock solid in his determination to see the U.S. win control of the icy Arctic island.
Writing on his social media site, the president said the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons, and anything less than American control, he said, is unacceptable. He went on to say that NATO should help the U.S. with the acquisition. Otherwise, he warned, Russia or China could gain control, and he has vowed not to let that happen. Greg Clugston, Washington.
February 1st, that's President Trump's deadline for cutting federal funding to sanctuary jurisdictions, both states and cities. The Washington Post says FBI agents have searched a reporter's home, part of an investigation into a government contractor who's accused of taking home government secrets. On Wall Street this hour, stocks are in the red. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 208 points. The Nasdaq is off 267 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-893-2288. That's 800-893-2288.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Well, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt. And there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at cspoa.org. That's cspoa.org.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
Dr. Ohlers with us, ladies and gentlemen. Safe blood is what we're talking about. How did this whole thing get started? It's one thing to do some research and discover anomalies. It's another to come up with an incredible solution like you guys have put in place, SafeBlood.com. How did it all start, Doctor?
Yeah, well, this is really very interesting. At the very beginning of the rollout of the vaccine, doctors in Europe were looking at blood under magnification, oftentimes for diagnostic purposes. This is something they did regularly. And they ended up seeing these anomalies in the blood among vaccinated patients, but not among their vaccinated patients. And so that our founder, George Della Pietra, were founded in Switzerland by George Della Pietra, as he was part of this sort of group of naturopaths who were doing this. And he himself is a naturopath who's had clinics internationally. And he was actually going into retirement when he saw the blood under the microscope and realized, this is going to be a problem. And the reason was many of the characteristics actually, which someone like you and I wouldn't really be able to spot looking at a blood slide. We can see, obviously, there's problems when we look at, we've got video of this you can bring up. But the point is there were anomalies you'd only seen in stage 4 cancer patients. And this was people who were walking around without any symptoms, and knowing that, they knew there was going to be problems. Now, what we're looking at here, this is video. The video is in German, so you can go ahead and pause it. But take the sound off. But what we're looking at here is that's blood magnification. That's normal blood. That's healthy. Okay. This is somebody who's into the laboratory. They've done a pinprick, and you can see that whole thing on the video. It's in on our website. You can see it start to finish. And they put it under magnification, and that's healthy blood. It's clear. It's not, it would be flowing freely in your veins. Now, if we jump ahead, you'll see what is actually the blood coming from a vaccinated patient. I think if you just click up somewhere around 15 or 16 minutes in, we should be good. There you go.
Yeah, and let's understand this other blood. I mean, even the average eye can see it once it's pointed out to people. I mean, they can see that it's not the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were people on YouTube putting out videos like this, saying my roommate got the vaccine, and so I looked at his blood under a microscope. I mean, this is this is medical school quality microscope here. That's just called dark field microscopy. You put a dark field behind it so you can see the image better. But this is called Rouleau's syndrome that you're seeing. And one of the characteristics of the vaccine and the spike protein was that it causes clotting. Now, we don't want to overemphasize what we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is Rouleau's syndrome, and where that's going to lead in this particular individual, we don't know. Rouleau's is not that uncommon, but it was a conglomeration of things that they were seeing that was really concerned. And this blood is obviously more sticky and not flowing as well. And so when I came on to SafeBlood, I asked, how common was this? When we're talking about protecting people from the effects of the vaccine, in how many cases under the microscope did they see the blood being affected? Is it 20%? Is it 10%? Are these just severe cases? I mean, it doesn't matter. We want to have zero risk, right? But just so I know, it's 100%. Everyone who got the vaccine was exhibiting these kinds of characteristics in their blood, right? And now I've talked about the self-replicating Replicon mRNA vaccine, fortunately not approved in this country yet. Their study in Uganda showed 90% of recipients had blood anomalies, many of them severe, okay? 15% had to be hospitalized from various things, okay? So we know this is affecting the blood. In the UK, Ed Dowd came out with, he'd done so much discussion of the insurance companies in his work on this. So Ed Dowd revealed, it was about a year and a half ago, when the UK came out with its insurance findings, 522% increase in claims for blood problems after the rollout of the vaccine. So this was an early
change the actuarial tables over this kind of stuff because people are going to be dying early and everything, right?
Oh yeah, no, the insurance industry has to have already changed by now. And so, but this was back August of 2021. And by September, SafeBlood was founded within a month of that, because, and it was just looking at the empirical evidence. And so this is what it means to follow the science. Okay. You look at the empirical evidence, you develop a hypothesis. This should cause problems elsewhere in the blood supply. That's a hypothesis. And then you deduce what that's going to mean, right? That's going to mean it's going to be dangerous for blood recipients. And then we've seen that. That's exactly what happened. That's a scientific method. That's the hypothetical deductive model, not jingos like follow the science or epithets about who's anti-science. You look at evidence, you develop a hypothesis, and you see if it's borne out. And unfortunately, it's borne out more than we could ever imagine, just with cases like the baby Alex we referred to, or there was another photo we had up of a baby Rad Giver, right? This is a child who didn't die of blood clots, baby Rad Giver. His mother died in childbirth, and in trying to save the baby, they gave him a blood transfusion, and he died within days from the complications of myocarditis. Now, when did we ever see myocarditis in children or infants? So you introduced that segment with those comments that we didn't, right? It would be, in fact, Peter McCullough talked about how it would be absolutely rare. I mean, people could go virtually their whole lives as a cardiologist and not see myocarditis in a child. And now we've probably all seen the ads that went kind of viral on Twitter of, I think it was a Pfizer ad about, treating my childhood myocarditis, one of those happy big pharma ads. Going to see my cardiologist for my myocarditis. You got this 10-year-old girl, right? That's not normal.
The incredible conflict of interest we're seeing too between these big pharmas, and the real manipulation came when Ronald Reagan and company passed the 1986 National Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund, basically, created no liability for these companies that create these toxins, these kill shots, in my humble opinion. And then you've got this, compromised situation where, hey, they create the kill shot, and then they want to go ahead and have that promoted and fun, and then they want to sell all their big pharma to everybody else to deal with a lot of these things, and it goes on and on. Tell me how the SafeBlood program works. How would I use it, or how does it apply to me or the average American?
Well, here's what it applies to, is to pre-arrange surgeries. If you know that you're going in for a surgery, you want to line up your own donors. And we help people do that. So we have a whole database, people who have stepped up to be donors. We have members some of whom are just donor only. It's free. You can, if you just are unvaccinated, mRNA vaccinated, and want to join up with us, please, you can do so for free. And it's an enormous help to everyone else in the country, just your being available for that. Our paid donors are what, keep the ship afloat, allow us to do what we do. They also have the benefit of both receiving blood and giving blood if they're unvaccinated. And the basic cost is the least expensive we have is $10 a month with a $50 sign-up fee. And that the next package is you could pay up front for the whole year, $120, or you could do a lifetime membership, which is $1,000, and that would cover you for life if you ever need a blood transfusion. And all of those also cover minor children in the family. And I think what we could, and so the process is that you are going to have a surgery, and you say, we had a woman in in Los Angeles, needed 10 units. Okay. We got her 10 units of blood. Dr. Thorpe called me with a patient that he had. This is a real success story. She's going in for a cesarean, a planned cesarean. She had been forced to take the shot to keep her job as a nurse. And now she was worried that if she needed blood, she didn't want more vaccinated blood that could affect her baby. So, and we only had a week to go on that. That was very hard. Where it's uncommon that we can get it quite that fast, but fortunately the hospital in Texas that we were working with was fantastic. They turned directed donations around in 2 days. And so we were able to get 4 to 6 units for her by the next Friday when she was going in. So this is, you want to be protected. and you want to be as protected as far in advance as you can, right? So the more lead time we have, the better. For really urgent situations, like say the mother that I just mentioned, that she wasn't a member of SafeBlood, but so there's an urgency fee, an urgent need fee that we do for that. People who just come to us as the first heard of us, and they want our service, and then we deduct from that, part of the monthly membership if they also go on to be monthly members. So it's really important to us. I mean, those who sign up to be members, I really think of it as they're doing more than just protecting themselves and their children in the event that they have a surgery come up. What they're doing is they're helping protect the blood supply by enabling us to do what we do. And that's going to protect their children, themselves in the future, and their grandchildren and children in future generations. So,
all right,
please step up, become a member.
Gentlemen, I want to talk about legislation. This is a right that needs to be protected, folks. This is something that, hey, should I be able to decide what goes in my body? Or is it going to be done by force? Do we have agency left anymore? That's the question on our minds.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Welcome back to Liberty Roundtable Live. We're talking about, is the blood supply safe? I'm not an expert. You guys know I'm not a health industry expert by any means, but I'd have to say no. That's my response. When you look at what happened during the pandemic, and now you have to ask yourself, is it fixable? Is there a way for our own government to bring in regulation, to bring in legislation, to maybe bring in some consequences? Because it's clear when you hear an expert like Dr. Ohlers and you listen to what happened, these were intentional overt acts. Any Department of Justice attorney would tell you that the overt act, the mens rea of the crime, is what actually qualifies it and makes it a crime underneath U.S. statutes. I think it's obvious. They covered it up. They lied to us. But this administration and Congress itself has been extremely slow in enacting legislation that is beneficial for the American people. I'm not positive, Sam and Dr. Ohlers, that they're capable of coming up with legislation that can help us, because they seem to be intentionally ignoring this industry. And my take is it's the medical industrial complex. They take money from it. The lobbyists are so powerful. I don't think Congress wants to touch us with a 10-foot pole. What do you think, Clinton?
Well, I mean, that's a really complicated question. It's also one of the most important issues, is that we need legislation, particularly at the state level, Like Congress is one thing. I mean, we should talk about national policies that we could institute. But at the state level is really the main area that we can most quickly and effectively affect change that would keep people safe. For example, we talked to this family in Texas. Okay, there are several states, over 11, and it's going, probably weekly, that are introducing legislation to protect to choose a donor of your own choosing, as long as they're a safe match, or give blood to yourself, autologous donations. And because there's nothing safer than your own blood. So actually, it's something I should say as an aside. It's really important for pregnant mothers, because we're going to talk about emergency situations here in a minute. And if you're a pregnant mother, you can expect that there's at least a possibility you might have complication and need blood. And fortunately, the American Red Cross and other organizations, they allow a pregnant mother to give blood to herself ahead of time to help protect herself during her delivery. There's nothing safer than your own blood for you. So that's a right that needs to be protected. Now in Texas, legislation was almost passed. In fact, would have passed last year to protect these rights, patients. The only reason it didn't pass, they had the votes in both chambers. It went from the first chamber and on its way to the second, it was interrupted by basically a parliamentary procedure. The individual who was supposed to forward the legislation to the next chamber waited until after the deadline, and so it literally died with the end of the session. Now that was
that incompetence or was it intentional?
No. Well, okay. Do I know? I can't read the person's mind. Is it plausible that it was incompetence? To my mind, no. These are not incompetent people at that level who are being elected to office. We believe somebody was.
You could even make emergency exception if there was really a mistake made. You could overcome that. So people in these leadership positions have power to do those things all the time.
Yeah,
I'd like to know if that individual took money from big pharma, from the medical industry, and who those donors were, because that sure would be interesting to connect the dots there.
Yeah, I wasn't part of the Texas legislation. I testified in Wyoming, and I can say from that experience and from watching the video of the hearings in Texas, I mean, the big blood banks, they send hematologists in to do just the kind of information that we saw in that FDA statement. And they really try to mislead the legislators with false implications of studies that don't imply what they're saying, with old studies that are out of date. I mean, it is really, it really dishonors the credibility that comes with having an MD when people do this kind of thing. But fortunately, the legislators in Texas saw through it. I think one of the compelling cases, there were two young girls who have a genetic disorder which requires them to receive regular blood transfusions. Now, what they found is that when they received directed donations from blood donors they selected, they did really well. Their health was excellent. But when they got it off the shelf, it wasn't as good. They had multiple health problems that would occur. And that's attributed to the blood simply not being as fresh. Blood lasts about 40 days on the shelf, but it's going to lose its potency as time goes by. And those girls need as fresh a blood as they could get. They're being denied that access by this blood bank at the hospital that arbitrarily decided to stop allowing directed donations and said they'll be fine with it off the shelf. So I think those two girls really pulled the case in Texas. Votes were there in the one house. We knew ahead of time that the votes were going to be in the next chamber. This should have passed easily, and it was. So I think it was corruption that stopped it.
But how is misinformation not a criminal overt act? If you intentionally provide reports or provide information that's false, how are you not committing a crime, Sam?
It's beyond my knowledge to understand, but here's the where a difference is, in my opinion, between a misstatement or a crime. When you full well have the knowledge to commit that crime, that's when it becomes real, Lance. When we can say, like if Sam just says something, oh, COVID con, it's bogus. I don't have any credentials. I just have an opinion. But when you have credentials that are certified and licensed, and then you go against your knowledge on that and do the very opposite like Fauci and others have done, that's when you can clearly say a crime has been committed.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think that's really what it comes down to. When are the states and the federal government going to, take responsibility for what happened here? And when are they going to actually protect the people that are being discriminated against? Because those two girls clearly have a legitimate argument. The Texas congressional members should have easily passed that. They chose not to. Maybe one of them did it intentionally, not out of incompetence, but just decided, hey, I'm getting my money from Big Pharma. I can't let this pass. I'll just go to the bathroom and forget to submit it in the time that it's allowed to be submitted. And to me, that's the problem. We have people in power that are making decisions to the detriment of their constituents.
Amen. So, Dr. Ohlers, let's ask this question. What about whistleblowers and journalism? I mean, shouldn't people be whistleblowing on this and speaking up and standing up? And shouldn't journalists be covering this and realize that it is a safety issue? It is a serious issue. This is not just opinion or prologue or a way to raise money. But that, hey, the core mission of SafeBlood is literally clear. If you cannot choose your donor, you don't have informed consent. And when this spike protein stuff stays in the body literally for years, crosses the blood-brain barrier, goes through, the pregnant mother, the umbilical cord, breast milk, all these different things. Mm-hmm. At some point you go, man, we need whistleblowers and journalists to stand up and force account here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But the level it's happening at is with people like you, Sam, you and Lance. Okay, there's a whole universe now of alternative media that are getting the truth out. And it's going to be a long time, I think, before we can expect any of this from the mainstream media. Although if RFK Jr. if we could ban pharma advertising on television broadcast media the way we banned cigarette advertisements, that would be a huge step forward, because the problem is that it's all bought and paid for. Fascinating detail from Kennedy's book is when he spoke with one of the founders of Fox News. The name will come back to me. He ended up leaving under, I think, part of the Me Too scandal. But he had said that he would never allow any anchor who interviewed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would be summarily fired. He said, because in a non-election year, we get 60% of our revenue from our pharma ads. Okay.
Unbelievable.
So journalism.
Disgrace, folks.
That is
disgrace. That's Fox News. Okay. So,
those are the people that claim we report, you decide, right?
Exactly. Del Bigtree, they did the movie Vaxxed. He ended up leaving this fantastic career as a producer for the doctors, because when the story started to emerge of how the CDC there was a whistleblower at the CDC who was showing that they had destroyed evidence, and he had kept it, that the MMR vaccine was harming children, and it was harming Black children, especially Black males, at times the rate of everyone else.
Now I want to, Doc, I want to jump in here. We have a limited amount of time.
Okay, sure.
And I know you've got a special promotion, a special savings for the Liberty Roundtable listeners that you want to offer.
Absolutely.
So take the last of the time, shameless plug, help our listeners and subscribers, and let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So sure, for all of your listeners, I'd mentioned there's a $50 sign-up fee. What we're doing is, if you come to SafeBlood.com, we're going to use the code for Liberty Roundtable, LRT. Okay, it'll be effective, after this airs. So just come to our website and you'll get 10% off of a year or lifetime membership, or you'll get the $50 sign-up fee waived. Please come be a part of what we're doing. Every member does a great deal to help advance this cause, not just to protect yourself, but the legislation and the national policies that need to be put in place.
Dr. Clinton Ohlers, ladies and gentlemen, SafeBlood.com. Use the code LRT. For Lance Migliaccio, the Big Mig team, and yours truly, thanks so much for being alongside for the ride. Hopefully it was educational, and it's so sad it's hard to make it very entertaining. But truth tellers, whistleblowers, honest journalism must come to the forefront and force action on this critical issue. Lives depend on it. SafeBlood.com, LRT is the code. God save our republic.